Hello everybody. So in a previous video let me get this out of the way, showing you how I created this piece and how I'm learning as I go. And I've watched more videos on YouTube, which is a wealth of information. So I'm starting to create a series of these little tiles because I'm going to play around with surface treatments, patinas and alcohol inks and different ideas. And so I want to create several of these close to the same size. I'm still working on these, of course. And but watching a video, I learned something. Now, I'm working on a cutting mat, which has some give to it. But another artist was recommending you take just 5 sheets of like copy paper and work on top of that. That gives you some extra give. And I'll start out with this tool. So she said to emboss, work on the soft surface. And what I'm doing is I'm just taking this wooden tool and I am deepening the etching of a leaf I put on this tile. And it does, I do notice there's a little bit more cushion there, so I can stretch the metal a little deeper. But they did say be sure to do this slowly because you are stretching the metal. So yeah, I like this. Yeah, I'm able to more easily press into the metal because when I was working on the other pieces, it was really hard on my hands. And this is just 5 sheets of copy paper, just scratch paper that I had left over from printing shipping labels on Etsy. So, all right. So I don't know if you can tell how that deepened the edges. Then I found this thin piece of cardboard or chipboard. I think it's chipboard. And I wondered how well that would work. So I thought what I'm going to do is emboss on this side with the same wooden tool, and I'm going to trace across or along the lines I just created on the other side. And in theory, this cardboard should give me more give and make it easier to emboss a little more deeply. So we shall see in a moment. It is much easier than working on just the cutting mat. I can already tell I'm getting a much deeper impression. So just finish this up. And I'm applying firm pressure, but not really digging in there too deep, as you do, like I said before, want to stretch the metal slowly. That's what all the other artists, oh, I crossed over a line here. There we go. That's what all the other metal artists are saying, that you should do this slowly. So, and I'm pressing right up against the emboss that I put into the metal on the other side. Okay. You can see that, and now I'll go. Also, they said to move to a hard surface to flatten it out. So I'll move this out of the way and work on my table to flatten this back out. Before I was doing both on the cutting mat, and I'm curious to see what kind of a difference this makes doing it this way. And what I'm going to do is two of these artists that I was watching, they are really very interesting, and I'll include links to their videos or their channels in the description of this video, or whatever it's called. I'm still new to YouTube, so haven't gotten all the lingo down yet. But yeah, I can see how this this will help emboss that leaf and not and keep the background flat. So yeah, I like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to this cardboard and kind of, this is the side where my lines are popping out. I'm going to, I think, work on this side and emboss the leaf so that it comes out on this side. I'm going to do that a little bit more and I'll be back. Okay, I worked on half the leaf. Can you tell which half? And I made a rib in the center, and I wanted it fairly sharp, so I used a ballpoint pen and kind of applied firm pressure on my chipboard to create the rib in the center of the leaf. And of course, this is the side that I worked on. And what I did is on the chipboard, I pressed into this side of the leaf, flipped it over onto my hard surface, and with my wood tool, flattened the background around the leaf, flattened it back down. And I'll continue to do it on the other side, and I'll be right back. This is what I have so far. It is quite a bit easier than working on just the hard surface. This one was created by working on just my cutting mat. And of course, I've got a ways to go on this, but the other thing I noticed when flattening down the background on a hard surface, such as my work table, glass top work table, it's not cupping along the edges as much as it did here. And although I like this cupping, I think this is actually better, because you could use it in scrapbooking or maybe part of a mosaic where you want it to be flush with the surface. I don't know, I'm just thinking that at least I know that I can prevent the cupping by flattening the background on a hard surface. So just wanted to mention that. And I'm going to continue on this leaf, and I'll be back. Okay, here is where I am so far. And what I did here is I moved to, I think this is called an orange stick. It's actually intended for nails, for pushing back cuticles, I believe. But I'm using it here. The pewter artist that I watched on YouTube, she said that anything that makes a mark in the metal is a tool, which I thought was kind of funny, but true. So whatever you have around the house, I think she even uses pencils sometimes to emboss into the clay or deboss. You can use anything you have around the house. And I moved to this because I can get I found a finer edge along the leaf than I could with this larger tool. You can see the difference in the tips. Of course, this is soft, so I'm smashing the end a little bit. I'll have to look to see if they make something in a harder wood for working with metal. And I could get an even crisper line if I work with my ball tools, but because they are stainless steel, they scratch the metal, which might be fine on the back side up against these edges. I don't know if you can tell. I'll show you in a minute. Yeah, this makes a nice crisp line. But here, I'll do this a little bit so you can see the scratches. Can you tell that it's scratching the metal? I mean, you can use that to your advantage, but I want to do a piece where I avoid scratches on the top. And do you see how I went in one direction and it actually, you can tell here, I've been cross hatching. So then I go across those lines to kind of neutralize them. Well, I need to work a little harder. And you can also turn this way, that way, so that you don't have quite as obvious lines in one direction. Of course, that's what I did here to create the spine, and I do want to create spines that radiate out to what they call, wouldn't be called a petal, but whatever, the lobes, maybe that's what it is, on the leaf. Where it radiates out into those lobes. And I'll do it on this side, the back side, so that they pop out on the front. I don't know if you can see that. And then what I might do is take a wood tool and just lightly work on either side of those spines to give them a little bit of definition. But I don't want to work too hard, or the embossing is going to collapse. So, and this is just me learning, so this might not be a good idea, but so far it's worked pretty good. So this is just light pressure up against those newly formed spines or veins in the leaf. So anyway, I wanted to show you that, and now I'll continue to emboss on this side, flatten the background out on this side on my hard surface. I'll be back. As I'm working, I wanted to mention something. As I'm getting closer to the end of the project, and I started doing it on this side because the marks with the ball tool show on this side. When I work on this side, they show on this side. I'm going to start consciously moving in the way that the veins on the leaf, the finer veins, the way they move on the leaf. So I might as well take these marks to my advantage, that's what I'm saying, and work in those tiny details as I'm embossing on the back side. So I just wanted to mention that, and I will continue. There was something else I wanted to mention, because you might not watch the first video I did as I worked on the acorn, is that you see this border? That is because what I did first was I took the metal and cut it. I measured a 1/4 inch around, cut an angled section out of the border, kind of a diamond shape out of each border, and then folded them over and flattened them with my acrylic roller like this to get them perfectly flat. But what I found after doing that and embossing on it, you can see that flat edge, the folded over edge, and it's created kind of a frame around my my design, which I like, but some people might want to avoid that. So the reason why I folded the edges is to keep them to, the edges were sharp when I first cut it, so I didn't want sharp edges, and so I folded it. But perhaps, and I'm not sure, you could fold the edges after, or also you can take advantage of this edge that's formed by the folded edges, and perhaps cut a design in the edge before you fold it, so that when you're embossing on this side, you will see that pattern. It's just an idea that came to mind as I was working on this. And maybe for the rest of this portion of the video, I'll film myself working on this and just speed it up so that I don't stop the video, work on it, and then come back and show you what I did. So for the remainder of this video, I'll let you watch the entire process. Okay, what I'm going to do next, pretty much have the leaf as detailed as I want. It's similar to this leaf, but you can see, or can you, that it is a little more deeply embossed. So it's a little bit different since I'm working on this chipboard. But what I want to do next, and like you see here, is I'm going to texture the background. And how I did that before was stippling it with my steel ball tool. And I did that on my cutting mat on this piece. So I'm going to try doing it on this softer chipboard surface to see what happens. So that's what I'm going to do next. Okay, so I've finished. Let me make sure you can see this. Oh gosh, I might have been way off. I wanted you to see this texture, and I like this because it helps the leaf stand out. But what I was thinking is some of the patinas that I'm going to try on these pieces may obliterate this background. You might not even be able to see it, so you might be able to forego that part of the, and pushing down on the front is called debossing. So this is embossed, making it stand out. This is debossed, so that the it's creating indents. So anyway, and then I left the border smooth, which I like because it's additional contrast. So basically that's it on this piece, and you see that here I worked on the hard surface of the cutting mat, and it caused the piece to cup at the edges, which I might use to my advantage. One of the things I might try is using UV resin around the outside of the leaf, maybe coloring it a little bit with alcohol ink perhaps, or powdered pigments, probably alcohol ink, which will give it some subtle color and additional contrast. But on others, I'm going to try liver of sulfur, India ink, heat, which most copper artists that color their copper use a torch, but I don't have that. But I did notice one time that I cured a piece in the center of a polymer clay pendant, and just the heat from the oven, which was 275 Fahrenheit, it caused the metal to turn a little red, which was kind of nice. So I'm going to try that as well. And then Christy Friesen's Swelligant. She has different types of patinas. I'll try each of those on copper to see what we get. And then there's another one that I was watching where they take vinegar and salt and coat the copper itself, and then place it in a container, airtight container, and put a little cup of ammonia to the side. The cup being, you want only the fumes from the ammonia to help create a patina. You don't want it to actually touch the copper. So I'm going to try that as well, but I wanted to show you a little bit more of the embossing, what I learned about working on paper, or in this case, this chipboard, instead of the hard cutting mat that I used previously. And also, what I was thinking as I'm stippling the background around this leaf is that what some of these artists have said is that you need to work on a flat surface because the copper will pick up whatever is underneath. And I was thinking maybe you could use that to your advantage. Of course, it would have to be something that's, I'm imagining, as hard as metal or close to it, so that you don't compress that texture underneath. But I might experiment with that as well. I'm not sure what I'll be able to use, but I might try that as well. So anyway, I think that's it for this video. And I will next begin to play with the surface treatments. So thank you very much for watching. Bye.